Okay, it's very difficult to speak about the Ish Kaddish V'Noira, Moran Reb Chaim, Sechet Tzadik Kaddish V'Racha, Schus Yogan Alein V'Ak Kol Yisrael V'Ramein. I came Erev Shabbos, Shushan Purim, came to Shul, the Balabas was Mamish Tzabrachin to me. He said, who's going to protect us now? I mean, we all know that after, by the Second World War, I think it's in the name of the Chazon Ish, the three Gedolim that were Nifter, Shimon, Chaim, Baruch Ber. I think the Chazon Ish said that Baruch Ber's Harvanya v'Toisvis, his Amelus and Tois was able to hold back the Holocaust. Its protection is gone, and so we look around the world today. It's Pachat Pchadim. We start thinking the Balbas was Tzishrakin. Who's going to protect us? Chas v'Shalom. We all know the world is nuclear. It's Who knows what can take place? So, the emphasis, I'm going to share just something that Bemis, I had a schus because when I was learning in Tells, I had a roommate, Rav Aaron Waldman, today, Waldig guy in Talmud Chacham, Marbitz Torah, but he was actually literally next door neighbor to Reb Chaim. And that time he already gave me Mises, just push it. He explained the very famous stories that you hear today about the grasshopper that landed on his Gemara. His next door neighbor, he heard the story, he told me the Mises that Chaim he was doing his kuntrus on the Chagavim and the grasshopper landed on his Gemara. He told me the story of the first chasna he made. So he had Kesef V'Nolam, where he get money from. He'd been talking 2 weeks before the chasna. It's 2 weeks before. The day before the chasna. Chasna is tomorrow. The day of the chasna itself is when he was given the manuscript of the Rekeach ala Torah to write. The day of the chasna. Eibishter sent the geld on the day. He said over a story, I think it was, I could confirm it, Phil David, but one of the Chashav Rabbanim in America was visiting him, and he was sitting there for an hour, talking and learning. And after the hour was finished talking, and then Chaim says, Efshe can make it still to the chuppah, maybe. Chuppah? Who's chuppah? So, my sons. He was aghast. He talked to him, I'll get a taxi. No, let's get a taxi, walk. Nefesh. It's my thing. So, as a bacher, I had the schus to be in Eretz Yisrael. I had the schus to go to the Stiples, Sechet Tzadik Kaddish V'Racha. But I also used to go to Reb Chaim. It was very accessible. No lines. You could just go. And I had the schus to go quite a number of times. I remember one time I went, so it was night, it was already 11 o'clock, and as you do, Reb Chaim got up, I think, 2:30, whatever time, he did all the Seder before learning that. Anyway, so it was 11 o'clock, I asked somebody, can you go in? Baybrack, someone there, it's in the street, he said, looks up, lights on. Okay, lights on. So I went, knocked on the door, I hear, Tikanes, come in. Okay, open the door, the hallway, how big is the hallway? It's an apartment. 2 cots are in the hallway, and 2 children are going to sleep. Slicha. I said, I'm sorry. No, you can go in. It's very embarrassing, but I went into the study where Chaim was learning. He was sitting learning, and he had a bed behind him. His son was getting into bed. I said, so I was going to ask him something. I said, I'll just buy a sefer now. And I walked out. The Hefgeras, the Pashtas, the Chesed, it's more Nordic. I was, it's a big thing to mevadeach a Talmud Chacham. Rav Gifta Zechet Tzadik V'Racha once said, Rav Moshe was getting older in years, and he met him in the summer. I was mevadeach Rav Moshe. He made him smile, laugh. But Rav Yaakov already was not so well. He tried to mevadeach him, didn't go, but he was very proud. He made Rav Moshe laugh. I made Rav Chaim laugh also. So, when I was a bachas, I wanted there to Yisrael. I'm going to be there Pesach, so I figured I'll try Rav Shach to go to him for Pesach Seder. Kol dich v'nei Yisrael Echel. So I went earlier. I asked, can I have a schus to eat by the Shiva Seder? I figured, look, if he'll say yes, I'm a lucky guy. And if he says no, I'm out there a minute later, but at least, who knows? The Rashach was very nice, just he didn't have a Rebbe, and it was hard, so I figured out maybe I'll try to go to Stipler. The Stipler was Pachat B'chodim. I was Pachat to ask him, so I went to Chaim to ask how I can ask the Stipler, if I can get into Seder by the Stipler. Chaim laughed, he thought it was very funny. He said, no. It was also schwer for the Stipler because he didn't have a Rebbe either. He said, Tommy's entering Ani, poor man. I didn't know the Stipler held. I think that the best Matanas of Yoinim is to Bach and Yeshiva, Takanani. I would have said. But again, it was hard. But it was my pshia. I could have asked Chaim himself, but I was looking like for the elderly at that time. So anyway, I ended up going to have a schus to go to Shalom Shvadron for Seder. It was a romantic experience. I'll just throw that in. It was not just as if a Seder, but I ended up going there for a Shabbos. It was just me and Reb Shalom sitting the Suda. I grabbed told Reb Shalom Maisa, what I heard with the Beinish Finkel, the Rosh of Mir Zechat Tzadik Levracha. He was a nephew of the Chazon Ish. And he was one time talking to the Chazon Ish and learning. It was before Mincha. And then Chazon Ish told the Beinish that you're wrong, whatever he was learning. After Mincha, Beinish came back to the Chazon Ish and said, Ich bin gerecht. I was thinking about it, I think I'm right. And the Chazon Ish said, isn't gerecht, you're right. So I told this Maisa to Reb Shalom. Shalom started to laugh. He says, mir gewend the Maisa. The story happened to me. Anyway, but Lamaisa, I didn't have a schus to eat by Reb Chaim, but my son, Moshe, ate by Reb Chaim twice. Shabbos Udas, it was Moridik. He had they ate by after Vasik and davening. Shabbos morning, he had the schus to be there. But the Metzius of Reb Chaim, everybody knows he lived. The Metzius was Torah. That was his life. Famous story that said that he after a stroke, they asked him, go and see where your cognitive abilities or whatever they may be. They asked him to write something. So he wrote, I think, you can pork on. So I said, you can pork on. Everybody writes their names. You first write something, you write your name. That's the normal tendency people do. So write your name. It's a Gemara. You can't write your name. Someone can make a star out of it and say you owe money. That was just natural. The Gemara. He lived the Gemara. I mean, Valban had Mrs. Valban had a nebuch. She broke her arm or something, and this is in the Rabbi's Kanyevsky book that the girls came late to school because they were helping out the neighbor, the Valbans. Mrs. Valban could take care of her kids at that time, so the Kanyevsky girls were there. And they came late to school every day. So finally the principal turned up at the house. Rebbitzin, your daughters are coming late to school. We said, yeah. So they're coming late to school. Avada, we have to come to school. But what's school for? It says, to teach you Torah, Chesed. That's what they're doing. That's the Mahus. It was the Metzias. That was it. I mean, everybody knows the brachas. Whatever came out of his mouth was Narivayim. I'm just saying Mises that personally I'm aware of. The Meisels used to live here, Blaza Meisels. His father was Eretz Yisrael, and apparently some germ went into the brain of something. Nebuchadnezzar was like a vegetable. At that time they didn't know what to do. There was a big shaila what to do with him. So his Meisel's brother-in-law was Rabbi Tress, was by Reb Chaim, and Reb Chaim, the way I heard the story was, he said, and then, as he's walking out, the way I heard it was, he called him back, said, "Ich hab gesagt." I said, "He'll have a refuah shleima." And that night, I think they gave a new drug or whatever it might have been, totally refuah shleima. So I'm walking around the lake with regular, healthy chaz. I confirmed that they're blazing measles. Yeah, nice to show you. Kachaya. My uncle, Moshe Kaufman, Rol Kaufman, has a book, in one era, out the other, but he met these people, that's five people. The people that, there was a fellow living near his neighborhood, there was a reservist in the Israeli army, but he was, whatever job he had, but he had a ponytail, a friar person, infertility he had, and he wanted to have children, so they went to the different doctors and everything, and finally, the doctor tells him at the end, he says, look, we did everything possible medically, it's not going to happen. And now you might want to try Kanyevsky if you want, but I said, Kanyevsky? Dr. Kanyevsky? Never heard of him. No, he's a rabbi, Rabbi Kanyevsky. He helped somebody once. I figured, so what? You're telling me to try some rabbi? What are you? We're not Haredi. We're not religious. What are you talking about? I said, you're right. You're right. I shouldn't have said anything. I'm sorry. She said, what did you say? He helped somebody? I said, yeah. So, what do you do? He says, look, I'll give you the address. I'll give you my name. Use my name. You cut the line. Okay? So Taka went, said the doctor's name, cut the line. They put him right in front of Reb Chaim. By the way, I had a chance to be there once by Reb Chaim more recently. And the Friday people, I saw a man sick, mamish sick. Two people brought him in. One person, he had to hold him on this shoulder, the other guy here. Two people schlepped the sick man in. Friday guy put him down in front of Chaim. Chaim starts telling him, I don't remember exactly, I think he told him to go, I didn't get payers. I mean, just simple hair. It's a beard maybe, the guy's macabre, whatever Chaim says to do. I mean, there was he wanted Yeshua, but that was the set the fellow down in front of Chaim. Chaim says to the man, who's the doctor say the problems with? He said, the wife. He said, no, problems with you. He said, what you have to do is take off your ponytail. This guy's ponytail was, his big thing. Take off ponytail. Says, okay, he's masking. He wants to have a kid. He's desperate. He'll take off the ponytail. Your wife should light neighbors for Shabbos. Okay, she'll do that too. She'll go to the mikveh. She's not going to go to the mikveh. Will she go immerse in the Jordan River in the Yarden? He says, yeah, the Yarden she'll go. Fine. 9 months later, a baby. So then the general, I guess in the reserves or whatever, he brings a name of the person, whoever it was. He finds out that this guy had a baby. He said, wow. He calls him up, what happened? He said, I went to Rav Kanyevsky. He said, what do you do? He said, use this doctor's name. They put you in line, you get in, there you go. So he goes, sits down by Reb Chaim. So he says, well, I want children. He said, but you have one already. I want more. He said, put mezuzahs up in your house. Put mezuzahs. 9 months later, you had a baby. There's people, everybody, the Hakara is Moedik. The Iker is also interesting. Dain Duna, I once heard this again. I don't remember if I heard it directly from him or in the CD. I don't remember. But I remember the saying that he used to come ask Shilas by Reb Chaim. But before he went to ask Reb Chaim, he used to talk, there was Silverstein, he used to talk over the Shilas first, then he go in. So he said a Shilah that he brought from England, there was yeshiva. There was a Bach in yeshiva, but Mitzuyin and learning, but davening, never made it to davening. They were getting fed up already. They've come to davening. I don't remember exactly the Shilah if it was to stop him from coming to Shir, or even to throw him out of yeshiva. I don't remember it exactly, but it was something to be very, I'd go to Shir. It was, so that was the Shilah yeshiva asked, what could you do with such a bacha? I'm davening. So he tells the Shilah to Zilberstein. So Zilberstein said, look, Chaim's a masmidatzel. Torah is by him everything. You're going to ask the Shilah? It's not Shilah. Of course he can't throw a bacha out. It's not Negeya. And by the way, you can't just throw a Shilah to Chaim. Every second of his time is learning. What they said, someone asked him a Shilah, it's a famous story, someone asked him a Shilah, where Makor for the Maharal, who says that Tzchis Mesim going to start from Arsavach Pela. So, famous Shilas. Anyway, as he's walking, he's thinking, it's not in Bavli, it's not in Yerushalmi, it's in Zohar, and he broke up, something like that. I mean, every second, his whole Kol Torah in his head. You can't just stop waste time, ask a Shilah or something. Yeah, so don't waste his time. That's why I heard. I said, look, Shiva said you got to ask the Shilah. Have to ask the Shilah. So he asked the Shilah, and Chaim says, no davening. You can't have Torah without davening. It's not Negeya. Tefillah is Tefillah. I mean, everything that Reb Chaim davened, the Bayim, Chasher, Tefillah, I just saw Reb Chaim, he didn't remember what he ate. He had to ask his wife what he ate for Bracha Achroina. So he said, I think I saw it brought down, because he davened to Moshe. The only thing in his mind that he should have is Torah. Everything else is not relevant. It's not Negeya. Torah is what you remember. Tefillah, I think his father, Stipler, say he davened from Chaim all the time. It's Sharatzlacha learning. That's the Aleph base, is the Tefillah, is the Siyat the Shmaya and davening. The Hemes is also, they have the I was zeicher to be there a few months ago. It was twice in the last 6 months I had this chus. So one time, the first time, about 6 months ago, they came in, and there's a famous picture you see of Chaim. I saw it. He was sitting at this Gemara, bent over, with his card that was going down the Gemara. He was sitting there. He sits like this for, was it 20 hours a day? Now, the Mordecai Ha'ara, I once heard from Rabbi David Ordman, he said over, it's a tells Rav, out to Rav and Shri Das, I think I saw the Shri Das also. He said, Pshat, Kol HaPirish Min HaTorah, if someone separates from Torah, is like Pirish Min HaYam. It's like you separate from the water. So what's the mashal? What's Chazal giving you a mashal? You take a 6-year-old kid, and you go to the fish store, live fish. In the good old days, you sell live fish. So we once went to a store, you see live fish. It's in the tub, whatever it is, and this fish just goes back and forth. But someone picked out a fish, and on the scales, it's flapping around, dancing all over the place. So the kid, 6-year-old, says, Mommy, get me that fish. I love that fish. It's dumping and lebendig. It's geschmack. The other one's bored, just back and forth. I said, no. That fish, he's dying. He's convulsing. Well, the other one's bored. No. He's gasping. In life, you see people have to do things. Skydiving, jet skis, mountain climbing, bungee jumping. People, they have to do this. They go to the next thing. Gotta be. Chaim sits there for years, 80 years, hunched over his Gemara. He looks bored. He's not bored. The people are doing all these activities. They're gasping. What can I get out of life? Gasping. He's sitting there 20 hours a day. He's swimming the depths. His Talmud is going there, diving up and down in the Yama Talmud. The whole Torah is in front of him. It's Noridik. He's not bored. I left. Other people have to look for something. Okay, we all need something out there, but we have to understand what it means. Someone that's in Torah, hacking up in the Gemara, 5 before fall asleep. He's not falling asleep. 20 hours, just keep going all day. Just the whole Torah. It's not volume if we get the picture. And what it is, I had a schus to say a number of times, the bracha, Baruch Shecholak Mechach Masei L'Reyav. This is someone who knows Kol HaTorah Kula. You come and stand in front of such a person. I didn't say it loud. You should say Amen. I didn't know where he holds, but then the last time I was there, was also a Haflo fella. I was supposed to go in a few months ago, and they told me I should write the names down of the people to get brachas. I couldn't believe it, because the Rabbi made him look at every name on the list. 3 small pages, pushing in this. The man's exhausted. He was 93, 94, sitting over after being up for who knows how many hours in Avodah. He's reading every name. He didn't even look up to me. I wasn't giving him a penny. I didn't give him any money. I didn't give him any covet. What was he doing? The selflessness was Narvayim. It hit me. And I was just one. And you walk out the door, there's throngs of people just trying to get in over there. It's interesting. My brother just told me, he said that after his stroke, he had his quota of learning. His Chaim was 8 blat and Bavli, but Yerushalmi, he would do with the Bavli. In other words, Zroyim, there is no Bavli. So he had to do, let's say, 1 blot of Brachas. He had to do 50 blot of Yerushalmi, whatever it was, to catch up all those Masechtas. After the stroke, he was under tremendous pressure. Lachatz. He had to go into Yerushalmi, but he had to do physiotherapy, whatever it was, to get his body back. Baruch Hashem, Chaz Hashem, he got back. But one time he was just so much lachatz to do the Yerushalmi, he canceled the therapy session. But when he canceled the therapy session, people were coming to him with their issues and questions, and he was sitting there nefesh, and he was just answering everybody. He asked him, I understand, you gave up your physical therapy because you did the lachatz of learning Yerushalmis, and now you just talk to people as if you have all the time and you can help them out. So when you do that Avodas Hashem, you don't lose. There's no lachatz. This was his, and the Peladik, I think, is that, I'll show you, there's a picture of this. It's a famous thing, maybe people saw it. There's a secular professor. His name Professor Yuvan Al-Bashad. Let's just see a little bit of a picture of him if you see. Anyway, I'll just read. It's a famous thing, maybe you read it, but he's a dean of law faculty, Ono Academic College. He was a community lawyer in the past, social advocate for the poor. He met with Reb Chaim on a number of occasions. Despite a staunchly secular and liberal background, his skepticism of religion, he was moved by the Gadol Hador's modesty, his devotion to the downtrodden. He wrote an article for Globes, I guess some fancy newspaper or magazine, about impressions of Reb Chaim, which focused on a very different aspect of the Gadol Hador. Religious people forget due to the focus on Reb Chaim's hasmada, his brilliance in Torah, his Ruach HaKodesh. In fact, Reb Chaim spent hours and hours of precious time doing chesed by gladdening the heart of broken people, without fanfare or any compensation. He says, I'll read it. I arrived at the home of the Sarah Torah, Reb Chaim Kanyevsky, at Tzala B'nai Brak, laden with preconceived notions. For someone who's the fourth generation of secular Jews, of the type that's zealous only about personal freedom, a phenomenon like this, reverence for a Rav, is viewed as more connected to the world of cults than the world of Emunah. I was convinced I was going to visit a luxurious home where he and his relatives take advantage of the weakest of their believers to get more power for themselves. At the entrance to the street, I was already surprised when the Haredi student who accompanied me pointed to Sarah Torah's home. It was an extremely shabby home on a regular Bnei Brak street. Along the outside stairs leading to the apartment on the second floor, many downtrodden people were gathered, broken people you would find in the back alleys of every society. They stood in a long line, which wound its way up to the upstairs door. The line was monitored by people of the Rav's court. They looked totally the opposite of how I imagined the concept of the people of the Rav's court. Simple people who volunteered for the task. The suspicious part of me woke up. I said, how much is this visit going to cost me? Chalila, the Rav doesn't take money. I insisted, and I was directed to a small room on the side where its stucker box was. I was surprised. I wasn't convinced. Afterward, I checked it out. I discovered all the money is given to the needy. When I entered the Rav's home, I was stunned. The Rav lived extremely modest conditions, more modest than even the most poverty-stricken clients I visited during my years as a lawyer. A tiny apartment with old-fashioned furniture from the early 1950s, only the overflowing Sfarim hiding its poor condition. The room where the Rav learned, which is next to his bedroom, 2 simple beds, is the heart of the home. There, next to the table, the Rav just simply learned Torah. Even at 2 a.m., he could receive any broken-hearted person who wanted an answer for his despair. He gave them hope without accepting payment. 2 things particularly impressed me. The first, a person like him, a person who learns his entire life and is satisfied with little, is a role model for 1 million people. The contrast to the culture of celebrities that is spread among us, a halal culture that lends importance to momentary power, filled me with envy. Second, the fact that Rav uses his lofty status in order to embrace people who are downtrodden. I was in the Rav's home a number of times, and every time I witnessed how people would leave his home with their faces shining from their emunah, he instilled in them that their problems can be solved. This was deeply impressive. If only the secular world had someone similar for downtrodden people, someone who's accessible to everyone, not only the wealthy. This is a person not from 4 generations. This is Hakara. There was a friar person at the Levaya that people picked up this clip or something where he brought his daughter, and some newspaper reporter man was asking, "What are you doing?" I want my daughter to see the honor of the greatest rabbi. And then he turns to the Haredim around him and says, "It's because of these people that we're alive. I'm a paratrooper 30 years, and we're only winning the wars because of these people." The newspaper reporter man is running away. They understand. They understand the MS. There's such cover. The Kiddush Hashem Noira that came out from this Levaya. My brother was there. Whole Bnei Brak turned out. Tables, food, drinks. They had signs up for women. Who would think about the women? Signs for a bathroom for women. Would it lead to someone's private house? Someone. Mikamcha Yisrael, the minded of his Levi was this Kiddush Hashem Noira. What was taking place is Haflo fella. But himself, the selflessness, I said, also, that's what, where's it all? Because look what we're having now, Pesach, Talmidim and Kiva died, they didn't give cover to each other. It never says they're mazalzel. It never says they disgraced anybody. But Baruch Saratzin pointed out because they had 12,000 zugais, says in Chazal, 12,000 pairs. Macharusa, we're learning. They didn't denigrate anybody, didn't abuse anybody, didn't have time for anybody. So what's the pshat? These Gedolei Yisrael, they just gave of themselves, selflessness. Because that's the Chaim says in Avas Ches and Akdama. He talks about it, Yira, Av, and Dvekus, and each time it says, Valachta Bidracha, go in Hashem's ways, Chanu and Rachim. That's the only way to attain these levels, because Yisrael, Varaisa, Kutchabrichu, Chadu, you become one. With Eibishter, you emulate him. That's what you become. Chesed, Chanu, for other people, for Klal Yisrael. It's Nor Vayim, it's should be Schus Yogan Alein, maybe from the whole Maimed of this Gewaldige Zyrus, the Klal Yisrael is going through to take from his Gewaldige everything. But if we have this Achdus now, we bring out the Nachas, Tavina Shabashamayim, Labitaka, Schus will be Melitz Yoshik, in Poil, he was pushing so much that we should be Zaychet to have the Gula Shlema, if we have the Zyrus to the Tshuva, Me'av and Me'ira, and to be able to go in his Drachim, David should give, there'll be Schuyas, there should be the Bekar of the Gula Shlema.